The Young Thug case just went from concerning to horribly bad. On June 2nd, it was just announced at Young Thug's bond hearing there are YSL members snitching on Young Thug. It was also announced what was found in the YSL mansion when it was raided and much more. Here's the important parts of the Young Thug court hearing.
He's the one directing traffic. He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's king slime. He is the most dangerous of the 28, Judge. And I implore you not to grant him a bond. He is dangerous. If he gets a burner, Judge, and the court may know this, a lot of the communications that Mr. Williams is on FaceTime because it's not traceable, it's not trackable. Judge, I will also say that we have taken proffers from fellow from Mr. Williams. Some are on this indictment, some are not. They have stated uniformly that Mr. Williams is dangerous. They are afraid of him, that if they cross him, he will them and their family. And they were very clear about that.
Concerns that this court has is danger to persons and to intimidate other witnesses and obstruct the administration of justice. So and for those reasons in the aggregate, I'm going to deny bond at this time.
Now, the prosecution in the Young Thug Rico case has now revealed proffers from members of YSL that name Young Thug as the head of the organization. To simplify what was actually said in court, a few of the 28 members of YSL that were originally arrested during the mansion raid are now creating deals with law enforcement, giving them information about YSL and Young Thug in exchange for a lesser prison sentence for themselves. Now, once this news broke out into the streets, members of YSL that aren't arrested were caught trying to delete evidence from the case. No Jumper reported on Twitter, a YSL member was caught on an illegal cell phone trying to get someone on the outside to destroy evidence in the Young Thug Rico case. Now, the county jail inmate that was using the illegal cell phone inside of jail came from the famous drone delivery. Last week, it was reported this evidence in the courtroom. Garlington and Quantavius did unlawfully commit the felony offense of conspiracy to possess telecommunication devices by an inmate. While speaking over a cell phone to an incarcerated Fulton County jail inmate, they discussed a plan to fly a drone carrying a cell phone beyond the guard lines to a window at the Fulton County jail. Now, it's no secret that Young Thug was being jailed at Fulton County at this time, but to simplify what this evidence means, associates of YSL made a plan to fly cell phones taped to drones near a Fulton County jail window. Now, obviously, law enforcement, they watched the drone fly over the fence. Rather than stopping the drone and confiscating the cell phone, they actually allowed the cell phone to be used by inmates as they wiretapped the phone. Now, this was super creative police work that law enforcement tapped these phones to gain information about the YSL case. Now, this Young Thug court hearing today revealed even more concerning things about Young Thug. Now, during the court hearing, prosecutors admit that they learned lots of things from YSL members that have just snitched on Young Thug. They learned how Young Thug would run his operation. Young Thug, when he wanted a job done that's street related, he would buy cheap iPhone burners. Now, with these phones, he would direct his troops, as titled by the prosecutors, to handle the business over FaceTime. Law enforcement and cell phone providers can't track and listen into FaceTime calls. It's completely hidden from the feds, even if the cell phone is tapped. So at the start of the court hearing, we see Young Thug enter in his little room. Before it starts, Young Thug with his webcam on is seen praying before the judge, hoping that he gets released from jail on bond. With the judge seeing Young Thug praying for the release, this is when we hear prosecutors bring up the YSL mansion being raided. They go on to say, there's no chance we can give Jeffrey Williams bond. During the YSL mansion raid, where Young Thug lives and would return if released on bond, there was GTA-type firearms found within the house. Firearms that law enforcement don't even know how he would have gotten them, whether or not it was legal or illegally. Now, they use this to their advantage against Young Thug during the bond hearing. telling the judge that he cannot allow Young Thug to be released on bond. The leader of YSL to be near firearms and social media in general could be a massive flight risk, as he could direct the rest of the YSL members to commit acts that are not currently arrested. Now, according to law enforcement, both rappers Young Thug and Gunna are among the 28 named in the Fulton County District indictment for RICO, but it's very clear that the prosecutors are only interested in one man. That man being Jeffrey Williams, otherwise known as Young Thug. During the court hearing, law enforcement announced that Young Thug will be facing 7 additional felony charges for narcotics and firearms after the police raided his home on Monday 9th. Young Thug's lawyers tried negotiating the state's decision on Young Thug being denied bond. Judge Wolf finds the rapper to be a flight risk, as well as a risk of interfering with the RICO case, and even a risk of committing even more felonies if released. Young Thug's attorney, Brian Steele, asked the judge to reconsider, considering his client's ties to the Atlanta area. Steele also offered to take custody of the rapper's passport and suggested that the court could order Young Thug to wear an ankle monitor and confine him to his home. Not only that, but they even asked the judge if it would be okay if Young Thug gets bond and spends upwards to $1 million supplying income for off-duty officers to literally watch him in his own home, making sure he doesn't leave or do anything illegal. Sadly, Judge Wolf declined all of those options, citing the risk of Young Thug possibly committing additional felonies. Both Young Thug and Gunna will remain in custody at the Fulton County Jail until further notice. Young Thug is having an extremely hard time being released from jail. Many online lawyers are claiming he will not be coming back until the trial begins. Now, both sides laid out their cases on why Young Thug should or should not get a bond. The rapper's attorney, Brian Steele, offered a sizable bond package, which included the 24-hour electronic and in-person monitoring team by off-duty police officers. As I mentioned earlier, 300 Entertainment co-founder Kevin Liles even got on the stand and offered to co-sign Young Thug's bond, helping and offering to pay the $1 million. In the end, the judge was moved enough by the proffer talk to deny Thug's freedom. He then states, "There have been significant proffers about Mr. Williams being a danger to the community." In other words, the YSL members that are snitching and making proffer deals told law enforcement that Young Thug is too dangerous to have out on the streets. Judge Glanville said before giving his ruling, and I quote, "In particular, the state's proffer that they have spoken, taken proffers from other team members and people who are in this particular indictment, and not in this indictment, that Young Thug is the leader of this team. He is dangerous, and if he crosses them, he will do stuff to you." And for that reason alone, a YSL member stating that to a law enforcement agent in a proffer, Young Thug will not be getting bond anytime soon. They believe that Young Thug is such a flight risk, as on the night of May 9th, breaking news was released. Rappers Young Thug and Gunna, among 28 defendants charged in a 56-count indictment in Fulton County. Now, the 56-count grand jury indictment charges 28 members and associates of Young Slime Life, otherwise known as YSL. The indictment includes charges of conspiracy to violate the racketeer, influence, and corrupt organizations known as the RICO Act, as well as armed robbery and participation in criminal street activity. Now, for those reasons alone, this is why Young Thug is being looked at so heavily, as even News TV captured this exclusive image of authorities taking Young Thug into custody when he was arrested. And here's even some bonus footage of his house being raided and him being arrested. Now, this will be the last court hearing that Young Thug has for quite some time, as according to the 56-count indictment, Young Thug is facing charges of participation in street activity and conspiring to violate the racketeer, influence, and corrupt organizations known as the RICO Act. With all of the attention right now on Young Thug, Gunna is still arrested and sitting in a jail cell. Gunna is facing 1 count of conspiring to violate RICO, with Young Thug and alongside Young Thug running YSL as an alleged head honcho with Young Thug. Now, after reviewing the 88-page indictment, there are very serious allegations against Young Thug. In court, prosecutors say that YSL is a criminal street team that started in late 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue of Atlanta. Now, YSL claims affiliation with the National Red. YSL's founders were Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug, aka Slime, then Walter Murphy, aka DK, and Trontavious Stevens, aka Tick. The most important part in the Young Thug case right now is that he is being accused of renting a 2014 Infiniti Q50 sedan. This vehicle was used in the commission of the passing of Donovan Thomas Jr., a rival street member, on January 10th, 2015. Now, for those reasons, Young Thug will not be getting bond anytime soon. And I hope you enjoyed. If you have any other questions about the case, leave it in the comments. I'm out. Peace.